Welcome to the first in a series of webinars on enabling and supporting remote work with Microsoft 365, where we'll sit down with members of our Microsoft product teams. In this episode, I'm excited that we get to discuss the implementation of Microsoft 365 to help your employees meet and collaborate remotely, as well as engage audiences through virtual events and communications. So how can Microsoft 365 help you to enable remote work? Well, over the next few weeks, we'll cover all of these topics. Let's start with empowering people to stay productive. Today, we'll talk about how we can help people to meet and collaborate from home, and how we can engage people with virtual events and communications with Microsoft 365 live events. In our next episode, we'll cover making productivity applications available on any device and delivering great virtual desktop experiences with Windows Virtual Desktop. In further weeks, how to secure remote access to applications, and even how to manage and secure both managed and unmanaged devices. Let's get this week's episode started. And with that, Karan, kick us off and talk a little bit about how we can engage our audiences and engage collaboration.
Thank you, Stephen. Hi, everyone. I'm Karan Nigam, and I work in the Microsoft Teams product marketing group. First of all, let me start by saying that I hope your families and yourself, everyone's keeping safe and doing well at these times. These are truly unprecedented times. At Microsoft, we started working remotely more than 4 weeks ago. And I have to say, it took us some time to get used to this new normal. But at the same time, it is exciting that Microsoft Teams has played such a critical role in enabling all of us to stay connected and still keep working together while we are all remote. With that, why don't I start sharing my screen, and we can take a look at what the product experience in Teams looks like. So here I'll get started with just orienting you on what the product experience in Teams looks like. What are the different capabilities that can help you stay connected and keep working with your colleagues on an ongoing basis. So first of all, just to orient you, unlike many other collaboration tools on the market, Teams is one of the only tools that brings everything together, all the capabilities that your org needs. So think of capabilities like chats, your meetings, your calls, and all the files and documents where you need to collaborate with each other. All of that is available in one single hub for you. So let's start with chats first. Now, when you think about chats, there are two types of chat that you can think of in Teams. Number one is a one-on-one chat with someone when you're working with them. So, as you expect, you can have an ongoing conversation with them. You can share documents, etc. And then all the modern tools and ways of communicating. So think of GIFs, memes, etc. That you use to have an engaging conversation with others. That's also available in Teams. Now, at any given point in time, you can also elevate a conversation to either a video call on the right-hand side, on the top right, or an audio call. A lot of times you're chatting with someone, and a quick call tends to be a bit more effective. You can call them, elevate a conversation to a call or video call at any given time. You can also start sharing a screen with them, again, at any given time. Now, this was a one-on-one chat, but a lot of times it takes a group to make things happen. So you, of course, can have conversations in a group. Here I have a group chat going on with a bunch of my colleagues. You can see there are 7 colleagues and we're working together on a project right now. Now, one of the capabilities that I like a lot, especially when you're working remotely, is at any given point in time, if you add a new member to the team, you're actually able to share the entire history of that chat with them. So many times it's tough when someone joins a project mid-project. It's very tough for them to understand what the project looks like, what's the context, what's the history of it. And a simple capability like that really helps them to come up to speed on what's happened before they joined the chat. Again, just like a one-on-one chat, at any given point in time, you can elevate the chat to a video call or an audio call with your group. Now, one other capability that we announced recently, and it's about to start rolling out rather soon, is the ability to pin a chat, to actually pop out a chat. So if you want to have multiple chats at the same time, you can easily just press on this button, which is called Pop Out Chat, and the chat just pops out. So you can have multiple conversations going on at the same time in parallel. so you don't have to go back and forth between chats. Now that was chats. We also have construct of teams and channel in Microsoft Teams. So the way to think about teams and channels essentially is if you want to structure your conversations and your work in a much more structured way, it's a really efficient way to do that. So on the left-hand side, you'll see I have multiple teams, and within each team you have different channels. So there are two ways you can think of teams and channels. One is you could think of team as at an organization level. So here you will see a team called Teamwork Marketing, and then different functions like business planning, event planning, fun, just to have fun with each other, knowledge sharing as different channels within that team. Or you could actually have a team, just based on a project. So here I have a launch team, which is a project point in time, and then various aspects of that project as channels. So it's just a very simple way for you to structure conversations, structure the work.
This is all awesome. It's a great way to communicate with people inside your organization. How does it work if we want to start to work with people outside of our organization? How easy is it to open up that team to someone external that maybe doesn't have a Microsoft 365 subscription, or someone who is not part of your organization?
Yeah, that's a great question, Stephen. In fact, one of the things that we are actually really happy about is the fact that at any given point in time you can add members who are not part of your organization. So here you'll see as I tap on the ellipses, there's a functionality called Manage Team. So once I go to a Manage Team, at any given point in time, I can add a member from that team. So here, let's say I'm working with a consultant called Robin. And Robin does not have a Microsoft address. She has a Gmail address. As I type her address, you can see that I can add her as a guest. Once I've added Robin as a guest to my team, she will be able to access all the documents, etc., and they will be able to work with us the way we expect. Not just that, at any given point in time as an admin or as a team owner, you have access to all the analytics of your teams. What are the kind of discussions that are going on, what channels are the most active, and then also a view of all the applications that are active in that particular team so that you can manage them and you can have a clear view of all of that.
Now, just to quickly follow up, that user then only has access to the content in that team. Is there a way of restricting what content within that team you could see, or they can only see the content in that team but not any others?
Exactly right. So the owner of the team always has controls on what the guest can access. And it's very easy to set these policies. In addition to that, we recently also started shipping something called private channels. So as you'll see on my screen, there's a lock sign right next to the manager's channel. And private channels essentially is a way for, if you want to have a confidential information discussion or information sharing, you can easily create a subset called a private channel where the members can only see the information and no one else can. So again, a simple way for you to keep your information secure and off limits for a lot of people.
We got one or two questions, so I want to pause for a second and get to some of these. Craig asks, so the default is not to share history, is that correct?
Yes.
When you add somebody to the group, perfect. And then if you share without history, can you go back later and share that with them if you choose to, or is it whatever you pick when they first come in?
I believe it's when you decide when the member actually joins. It's the decision when you take it then that you decide at that point in time.
What if you were to remove them and then re-add them? You could go, they'll get that choice to add all the history, and
exactly.
You could do it that way. Okay.
Exactly right.
What about multiple screens, like using an Excel spreadsheet and a Word doc on the same screen by resizing?
Is that in context of within Teams or? Within
Teams, yes.
Yeah, I think currently we do not support the pop-out apps, but the pop-out chats is something that you can actually work on. So if you have a document in one of the chats, that's the way I showed you. You can pop out two different chats and then have them open in parallel.
Right, and then you could always just say, yeah, open up the doc in the desktop app, exactly. And then you can also run both of those. And then when you close, that content is resaved back to that team. So that works absolutely perfectly. Great. Yeah. So what about things like Power Platform, Power Apps, the no code, low code? apps to really help to align goals and visibility as part of this chat collaboration aspect?
Absolutely. So let's take a look. So I have another team called business operations here, and as you'll see, I have multiple channels here to manage a process. So now one of the things I've done is while we're working remotely, some of our essential workers are actually in the warehouse, making sure that all the customers are getting the best possible experience. So we've created actually a Power App to manage that operation. So at any given point in time, it's a low-code application that one of our developers created in a very simple way. And at any given point in time, you can use this Power App to actually process the returns that are coming from customers. And what I've essentially done is I've added that Power App right as a tab in a particular channel called Process Returns. Now, once someone submits a process return request, another channel in that same group is called Manager's Approval. So because we also have Power Automate within Teams, as soon as someone submits a return request, I, as a manager, get a request to approve that process, and I can either approve it or reject it. Now, imagine a big business like Microsoft where, a flow like this where a return is processed and a manager is approving. Imagine the kind of data that is getting developed because of that. So again, to develop an end-to-end view of what's happening across the business, you can actually have a Power BI dashboard that's collecting all that data, all that signals, and again, just add it as a tab within Teams. So at any given point in time, you have visibility to what's happening in your business at various locations across the country, right? Now, just to summarize, think of this. All of this, your application, your approvals, and your data access to data and insights, all of this is available right within Teams. Not at a given point in time do you have to leave Teams to do any of these actions.
And what's great is, we've had some great customer stories on people building Power Apps that have no code experience. They're simply connecting to a database and saying, hey, if I type this in, bring this content up. And it's been amazing how people have said, we just need to check the warehouse, or we need to see what the status is on this. And I literally went into Power Apps, created 5 or 6 fields, chose what those fields should be, and now I'm using it from my phone as I walk through the warehouse.
Exactly right. I think it's definitely been very gratifying. Some of the big customers like Telstra, etc., are using this on a regular basis to be able to manage their field operations, approvals, etc., on an ongoing basis in a very simple way right within Teams.
And one of the other great aspects of Teams is the ability to bring in third-party apps, things like Salesforce, and if someone is using Blue Jeans for calling or things like that, how they can bring those in. Talk a little bit about how either we can bring in our own apps, the ones that we've developed, or the ecosystem of apps that are available to our customers to bring into Teams.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see on my screen, we actually have a dedicated app store right within Teams, because Teams, we think of Teams as a platform. In addition to your chats and your meetings and calls, so much of the work actually happens in applications where you manage your business processes on an ongoing basis. So we have a dedicated app store where you have more than 400 applications for you to get started. Now, we've also made it easy for customers to be able to curate these apps. So at any given point in time, if you are developing line of business applications, you can have a tab here which is dedicated to your company. So here, for example, it's built for CTO, and all the applications that your IT admins or your developers have developed for your company are available right here. In addition to that, at any given time, you can see all the popular applications. So think of apps like Trello, Zoom, the Cisco WebEx meetings application, SurveyMonkey, Evernote, all of these are available to you right within this view. You can also search for your applications. So, if you're looking for application like Adobe, you can easily have it available for you right here. Or, I think you mentioned Salesforce. You'll see Salesforce application is available to you right within this Teams. And at any given point in time, you can actually integrate these applications in any channel, in any conversation in your Teams.
That's tremendous. So beyond being able just to work with folks that are, in an office and collaborating together, I know that we've announced a lot of features for first-line workers. So first of all, what is a first-line worker? And second, what are some of these key features that really can help companies to really think differently and to position themselves differently while using Teams maybe from an iPad or an Android phone or a mobile device.
Absolutely. So first line workers are actually one of the biggest parts of our global economy. Think of globally more than 2 billion people identify themselves as first line workers. These are the workers who are actually on the front line. Think of the workers in stores, in retail stores, and in shopping centers, in warehouses. These are the people who are actually moving the work on an ongoing basis. But in our experience, one of the things we've recognized is, even though it's a huge part of our economics, a lot of these people still don't have access to the most up-to-date technology for their everyday use. So for teams, we've been focused a lot on how can we make their work digitized on an ongoing basis. One simple example, if you look at a lot of our customers, some of their shifts management work is something that's still happening on paper and on whiteboards. So I have a capability, an app called Shifts within Teams. And here you'll see that shifts and time schedules of all the managers and all the store workers are available in one single pane. So at any given point in time, you can actually manage the schedule so everyone has visibility. And as and when new shifts are added, people related to those shifts get a notification. They can manage their shifts, let their managers know that they need to change their schedules, etc. Again, a simple way for us to be able to digitize something that's been manually managed and processed for a long, long time.
So they can also go in, like if you could click on requests for a moment, I love this feature where I could take a look at my own shifts and you can pick and choose whether or not people, can say, hey, I need time off, or I want to swap this shift, or I want to offer it up if someone's looking to pick up a shift. And you can either say, no, it all has to go through a central resource, or that end users can have this capability to be able to do this. When you think about this and being able to add other features like the ability to share where I'm at, the walkie-talkie feature and things like that, how have we seen some customers leverage this, and what has it enabled them to do that they weren't able to do before by leveraging some of this first-line worker technology?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned, as we start thinking, one of the missions, as Microsoft's mission is to empower every person, every organization on the planet, right? And as a part of that, one of the biggest things we have to do is to make sure that everyone's coming along as technology progresses and evolves. And for first-line workers, these new tools will allow them to actually digitize and bring technology along with them on any device they're using, whether they're on PC or iOS or Mac or Windows all of these technologies are available for them at any given point in time. And one of the examples that's been very, very close to my heart is, an example from IKEA, where they've actually started using some of these first-line worker capabilities and teams to digitize things like shifts, etc., on an ongoing basis. IKEA is one of the biggest companies managing the operation on a global scale. And now they're utilizing some of these capabilities to digitize some of the everyday processes. So that's just been very, very gratifying to see.
That's awesome. One more thing I want to ask you about, because I know we've gotten a lot of questions on it. Background blur and custom backgrounds. What is it? When are we going to get it? How can we start to play with this? Because people want to not show what's going on behind them. So take a second to talk about that. And then second, are there any resources or pages that folks should definitely check out and go to learn more about the features you've been talking about today?
Absolutely. So why don't we actually start with talking about meetings in general, because meetings has become the way for all of us to stay connected and check in with each other on an ongoing basis. Yep. So here I'm sharing my calendar, which is right within Teams, as you'll see on the left-hand side. Now this is this calendar view will seem familiar because it is. It's similar to what the kind of calendar view you're used to on your Outlook, which we've used for many, many years. So at any given point in time, you have access to all the meetings that you have to attend or you've created right within Teams. On the top right, you'll see you get two options if you want to create a new meeting experience. You can either create a meetings, or you can actually create a live event, which I know Dan will talk about in more details in a bit. Now, at any point in time, if I want to join a meeting, let's say I want to join the company meeting, I can click on that. And as I click on the join experience.
And he was able to join that meeting, which took him out of this one.
And I am
good. Awesome.
Give me a second, please. I'll start my sharing my screen again. And as you'll notice, if you're in a meetings experience at any given point in time, you can go to the features here. So at any given point in time, if I want to change my background, which is, of course, the most sought after feature right now,
yes.
I can go to show background effects and I can tap on that. And then you'll see a plethora of options that we've just built into Teams that you can select from. So, if I want to just change my background, I can click on this and apply the effect, and voila, my background's changed. Now, this is a capability that we've started rolling out already this week, so a lot of you should start seeing them in your Teams experience rather soon. But the thing that really gets me excited about this is, it's an example of how we've used something called artificial intelligence in a way that can be used in an everyday experience. So many times you're working from either cafes. Okay, admitted, not right now, but you're working from cafes or you're sitting at your home and your home's not in a perfect shape, or your kids are running around, your dogs are running around. You can just take away all of that distraction with a simple implementation of AI like this in your Teams experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Karan. I love your Minecraft background. We just released a cool new version of Minecraft, partnered up with NVIDIA. There was some great news on that this week. So thanks so much for joining us. Dan, let's talk about enabling people to, with virtual events and communication. And let's start with Microsoft 365 live events, how it can, work with company meetings and help you to deliver training and conferences online. And we've announced that we're going to be moving our conferences to virtual. So how can our customers do this? How easy is it to do? Walk us through the platform.
Hey, Stephen, great to see you. And again, I certainly hope everyone out there is doing well and staying healthy. And as we're all working from home, as you mentioned, people are really trying to find ways to connect with each other in an online environment, just as they would in a physical environment. Teams with Teams meetings and chat and calls certainly is one form of gathering together online. But when organizations need to conduct what you might think of as an event online, things change. It used to be easy to bring people into an auditorium or to bring them into a conference center to engage with them, but that's obviously a lot harder today. So through experiences like live events in Microsoft 365, we're able to empower companies to with a spectrum of options for delivering online events with live and on-demand video, interactive chat, and questions and answers.
Awesome. So let's actually dig in. What I'd like to really understand is, how does the product work? How easy is it to schedule one of these meetings? And then the second part is, how do things like Yammer and Stream and SharePoint and OneDrive fit into these? And then as we move across platforms, does this experience stay together? So let's start with the first one. How easy is it to set up and manage a Microsoft 365 live event?
Great question. It can be super easy. In fact, what we're doing right now with this event, this webinar is in fact a live event in Microsoft 365. It's produced in Teams and it's delivered through Teams. Microsoft Teams provides an end-to-end solution for delivering engaging online events to your internal and external stakeholders. So whether it's a departmental update or a public event like this, Teams gives you the way to do it from the beginning to the end. So let me actually show you how you would schedule and produce an event just like the one we're in right now. You're all seeing what it's like to attend a live event. Let's see how easy it is to actually create this. So I'm going to jump into Microsoft Teams here. And right from the calendar that Karan was showing, I'm able to create a new live event. I can enter the important data like the title, time, and date. And I can invite multiple people to be either producers, allowing them to control the presentation, or presenters. I can then choose who should see this event. Is it a team, a group, the organization, or available to external attendees? And I can add options like question and answers, which, as you are seeing right now, allow you to ask questions of the presenters. Once the meeting is scheduled, there's then a link that we can share with attendees. This is just like the link we shared with you. And this actually enables people from outside the organization to attend if you chose to make it a public event. Now, when the event day comes, I can enter this event from my calendar, just like a meeting. I click join. I'm a producer of the event. So I am able to define and pick what video and content is shared. My presenters can join, and I can then add their content and their video to a layout. And when I have just the look that I want, I can send it to the audience and start the event. And from that point forward, the presenters are sharing their webcams and videos just like a meeting in Microsoft Teams. I, as the producer, am able to control the content that is actually broadcast to attendees. So as you can see, it's super easy end to end to produce a live event in Microsoft Teams. Now, you also asked, Stephen, about how Yammer comes into play. Yammer is our tool in Microsoft 365 for connecting people across the organization for communities, knowledge sharing, and employee engagement. So when you really want to engage people across the organization, across silos, across work groups, across teams, Yammer gives you that capability. And so let's jump over to Yammer and see how easy it is to schedule a live event in Yammer. So here I'm in Yammer, and I'm in a community that's used to connect employees with leaders. This, on a day-to-day basis, employees can come here and ask questions, leaders can respond. It creates a real two-way dialogue. From here, as an administrator of this community, I can create a live event, put in the details like the company meeting. I can pick a date and time. Maybe this is our quarterly update. And once I have picked the date and time, I can pick what type of production I want. If I want a simple screen sharing and webcam sharing experience, exactly as we saw just a few moments ago, produced in Microsoft Teams, but broadcast as a live event, I can choose to produce with Microsoft Teams. If I want a more customized production, everything from more control over layouts to a sophisticated studio experience, I can choose an external app or device. Since we saw the simple screen sharing and webcam sharing earlier, I'll go ahead and choose the external app or device here.
Time to cut in with a quick question, because somebody said, can the event be recorded? Can all participants record? And what we saw there was you can choose to have the event recorded to make it on demand so that folks can go back at any time and rewatch this, have the captions brought up, and to be able to go through this, correct?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So live events can be recorded automatically, and AI can unlock the content of those recordings with a transcript and a searchability. So you can actually go into the recording of a live event and search for specific content, which is fantastic. So here we've just seen me setting up a live event for our organization inside of Yammer. As the producer here, I can click Start Setup, and I will get a what's called a RTMP URL, which sounds really fancy, but it's just an IP address that the production team can put into their equipment and stream whatever content they want to this live event. Now, before the event, people can come here in Yammer and ask questions. So this is one of the great things about live events in Microsoft 365 is that they can have an experience before, during, and after the event. People can ask questions. That allows the presenters, the leaders in this case, to identify what are the hot topics, what questions need to be answered. During the event, people can come here, watch the live stream, and continue to ask questions. And after the event, they can come back, review the recording, and continue the discussion. And this is all, again, Microsoft Live 365 live events, this time hosted in Yammer to give that Yammer superpower of open conversation. But one thing I'd love to share with folks I'm very excited about is an announcement we made at Ignite. And very soon, this experience of live events in Yammer will actually be something that people can watch inside of Microsoft Teams. So let me actually give you an example of that here. So this is that same live event that I just created, but with the Yammer app for Teams, which will be coming soon, people can actually join and attend that meeting in that live event inside of their community without leaving the Hub for Teamwork. So here we see a full fidelity Yammer experience where people can ask questions, they can enjoy the live event, and continue the open conversation. So for example, as I ask a question here, someone might actually be able to answer that question in real time. And because the video is an enduring asset, it's a recording, someone can actually answer the question with a link to the video where that question was actually addressed. So super powerful capabilities there. Yeah.
Excellent. So Mac, PC, mobile, web, how, can this experience be accessed from different platforms, and how does it change based on those?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the great things about live events in Microsoft 365 is it is a capability that is integrated across the suite. You can view live events in Teams, in Yammer, and Stream, even in SharePoint with a Stream web part. And those experiences are then available to people across Windows, Mac, Linux, and mobile devices, iOS and Android. So regardless of where people are, you can reach them, you can engage them in real time with the live event, and you can continue discussion after the event as well.
Awesome. We have a few questions. So the first one is, how do I unlock public events?
Great question. So live events in Microsoft 365 are a capability that is delegated. So from the admin center, you're able to delegate who is allowed to create live events and whether public events are available. So we have documentation for live events. You can start at aka.ms/live events. You can also do a search for live events in our technical documentation. And there's just a switch. You need to go into the admin center to enable who can create live events and also whether they can create public events.
Okay. What about live polling and surveys during these events?
Great question. That's one of the advantages of doing an event with the interactive discussion powered by Yammer. Because that is an ongoing discussion that happens in real time during the event, you can post polls and get responses in real time, address the responses you're seeing. That's absolutely part of the experience.
Awesome. So how are customers leveraging this? How are we seeing people start to use this, and how has it helped them to better engage with their own employees and people externally with everything going on right now in the world the way that it is?
Sure. Well, live events are a great way to spark awareness and conversation. They're a very compelling, interactive experience that allow people to focus and immerse themselves in what's being communicated, so they get the message. After that, you can create a drumbeat of keeping people engaged and informed and aware using tools in Microsoft 365, including Yammer and SharePoint, which I can show you as well if we have time.
Okay. Any guidance or best practices? And I'm going to throw this out to both Dan and Karan, because one of the things we hear from folks is, hey, we've now rolled out Teams, but is there as best practice on how we do it? Or how are other customers doing it? Or we want to start to do live meetings. What are some of the gotchas and things that we should be aware of? So Dan, I'll start with you on that one, and then Karan, I'll go over to you.
Sure. Our capabilities in Microsoft 365 are very rich. They support scenarios from an interactive meeting to a more structured event with a small group, all the way up to public-facing events for thousands of people. So one of the best practices is to start with our guidance at aka.ms/live events, where we'll step you through both the products and the capabilities from a technical standpoint, but perhaps more importantly, the scenarios. So that you can look and say, hey, yeah, I want a company meeting, or I want to have a webinar for my customers and partners just like this one. And from those scenarios, you can then get to the guidance that will step you through the choices to make and the best practices.
Awesome. Where can folks go to learn more? Where's the best place for them to go check this out and stay engaged and learn about us, all these cool new features light up?
aka.ms/live events.
Awesome. Karan, same question over to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in terms of best practices, I think, one of the things that we've started doing on a regular basis with our team is, we've created these stand-up meetings every morning with our team so that, before we start the day for 15 minutes, all of us just get together on a Teams meeting, a video meeting, where we just do a check-in both at a personal level, and then, what are some professional goals and for the day, as well as, if anyone needs help from each of us. So I think some of those, check-ins, etc., has been super helpful for us. And of course, at any given point in time, as Dan pointed, we've been using live events in Teams on a very regular basis because our leadership has been doing a lot of bi-weekly check-ins with the entire organization to make sure everyone's feeling good. So definitely encourage all of you to try out these features and stay more connected, especially during these times where people just need to feel more supported and have access to each other on an ongoing basis. In terms of just resources, and if there are questions about meetings, There are multiple links that I've shared, that we will share after this conversation in the chat. So, you can take a look at all of that. But we have links, dedicated links in terms of what virtual meetings and what you can do when you need help to set up teams in your organization. We have robust technical documentation for teams available as well. So at any given point in time, you as an IT admin or as an end user have access to all the information. One good place to start would be aka.ms successwithteams. That's a link where you can start getting a lot of information. At the same time, I would definitely encourage all of you to keep an eye out on the Microsoft 365 blog, where we are sharing information, best practices, and all the new announcements on an ongoing basis, publicly.
And great stories about what our customers are doing with the technology so that they can inspire you about ways to connect people inside and outside your organization during these times.
Awesome. We have one or two more questions. Dan, this one's for you. Interested in the option to leverage outside of the company. Need to understand the limitations such as max number of attendees. Is guest user status needed? And if so, maximum number of guests?
Great question. So with live events in Microsoft 365, you have the ability to host live events for up to 10,000 people inside and outside your organization. And just recently, we announced that for a temporary between now and July 1st, we are working to help customers achieve scale up to 100,000 people inside and outside your organization. In order to go to that scale, we encourage you and ask you to go through our new Live Events Assistance Program, which is free and steps you through the process of planning and configuring your live event, as well as troubleshooting should anything go wrong. So through the Live Events Assistance Program, we can help you reach scale up to 100,000 attendees.
Awesome.
And guests are welcome. We have live events available for inside and outside your organization, which can be done with a link. They do not require a guest account, just like what you're experiencing right now as an attendee of this webinar.
Exactly. Kron, question for you. Bit of a sensitive question. Any plan in your roadmap to integrate sync with Teams calendars with Google Calendar? Sorry to ask, I know Google is a competitor, but it would be tremendously helpful for many of us.
Well, I think as you pointed out, it is a sensitive question. So I think the best I would say is, we are on an ongoing basis, we keep a track of all the capabilities that our customers are looking for. If user voice is a great way for you to submit your feedback in a very formal way. Know that we and the product side and marketing side take a look at all the feedback our customers are submitting, and if that's something that a lot of our customers require, we'll definitely pay attention to that. But the best way for you to keep an eye out on all the new announcements is the Microsoft Teams technology blog, as well as the M365 portal, where we announce all the new announcements, etc., on an ongoing basis.
Okay, one more question for you. Does Azure have to be used for authentication when building a custom app using Power Apps, or can it be done through Active Directory?
It can be done through Active Directory.
Okay, so we'll send them to support.microsoft.com under Teams, and then we should have a lot of that information in there, which I think is a great way to be able to do that. Let's talk about employee communications. So why don't we dig into that, Dan? That'll be our last topic today. But how is that done, and how are we seeing companies bring that information in?
Great question. So in today's world, when everyone's remote, not only are people working to figure out how to work remotely and securely, but organizations are also trying to connect people across organizational silos, across teams, to create that organizational awareness of culture and of news and information. And in Microsoft 365, we have several tools with superpowers to help you achieve this. The first, and I'll share my screen quickly here, is Yammer. And Yammer allows you to connect people with open conversations in communities that span the organization. So this is a great way to bring people together at scale in a way that allows them to engage and be informed. So I'm showing, for example, a very common use case for Yammer right now, which is to have a community that allows people to stay up to date about the organization's response to COVID-19. This is a place where announcements can be made. So we see an announcement here pinned at the top of the channel. Questions can be asked and answered. using the question and answer feature in Yammer that allows best answers to be flagged and visually highlighted. And this becomes a place that people can tap into to share knowledge, to share best practices, and to share experiences. At Microsoft, we have several communities like this where people are sharing tips for working at home, where we're sharing news and information about our COVID-19 response. To create a more structured set of news and information, you can use SharePoint to create a site sharing news and information in a more curated way. Well, this is an example of a crisis communications site tuned for COVID-19. We can see we're using SharePoint News to distribute information, lots of links to resources and to people, recent videos that help people understand what they need to know about the current situation, and even social feeds from the WHO, the US Centers for Disease Control, and our internal Yammer conversation. So using the Yammer web part in SharePoint, we're actually bringing that exact same conversation we saw in the standalone Yammer example a moment ago directly into the SharePoint site. And if you're interested in doing something like this, it's just a few clicks away. We have a great resource, lookbook.microsoft.com, where you can view and download solutions and templates and samples. So for example, if I go into the crisis communications sample, you can not only see this exact site that I was just showing you, but you can add it to your tenant with just a few clicks and then customize it to meet the needs of your organization. So using SharePoint to create a curated employee experience that brings together news, information, and conversation is a way to give people a hub, a place to go to stay up to date. And that's true not only in times like these, but in day-to-day operations of an organization, having a place to distribute news and keep people informed, and using Yammer to engage people in a two-way dialogue across the organization.
Awesome. That was great. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Dan, Karan, thanks so much. Please, everyone, join us on April 22nd, where we'll focus in on extending productivity across mobile devices, as well as how to deliver virtualized applications and desktop environments to every platform with one of my favorite tools, Windows Virtual Desktop. Dan, Karan, thanks again. Last chance, any last words, any place that our audience should go to go check out all the latest information and see what's going on beyond the Microsoft 365 blog? Karan?
Yeah, I think we are pretty active on our Twitter handle on Teams as well. So, we keep sharing old information. Just recently, we announced that we will be bringing the 3x3 to Teams meetings on our Twitter. So yes, keep an eye there. And then at the same time, all the documentation, etc., is aka.ms/successwithteams.
Dan?
Yeah, I would certainly say the SharePoint, Yammer, and Microsoft Stream Twitter handles are a great set of handles to follow for the latest news and information. And also, very importantly, the tech community. The Microsoft technical community at techcommunity.microsoft.com is a place where the entire community can come together, ask questions, connect directly with the product group, get answers, and share best practices. So tap into the technical community. You'll find lots of great conversation there, as well as blogs directly from and about the products.
Awesome.
And most importantly, stay healthy.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're learning more about how to use these great tools to help you communicate, collaborate, and really stay in touch with all those people who are important to you, both in your personal life and in your business life. So thank you. We'll see you again on the 22nd. Thanks so much to my guests, Dan and Karan, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.